Hey guys, today going to be replacing the oil pump on a 1996 Mazda Miata with the 1.8 liter engine. Uh, Reason for replacement is lent the car to a buddy of mine. The crank pulley fell off of it, and in turn it ended up destroying the lower timing gear. And in order to get the lower timing gear off, you have to get back in there, and ended up ended up cracking the housing of the oil pump and didn't realize it. And so went to start it, started spraying oil everywhere. So got to replace that. I've already put 2 front main seals in it. Didn't fix it, so I'm just going to replace the whole thing. So let's get started. Gonna end up pulling the valve cover off. That way you can block the cam gears or the cams. You got to end up pulling the radiator. You can leave the AC condenser in. You can leave all that in, and we're going to end up lifting the motor so we can drop the oil pan and pull the oil pump off the front. Going to start pulling off your vacuum lines. This just happens to go to the oil catch can. Pull the vacuum line off for your cruise control. Plug that off to the side. Another vacuum line. You don't necessarily have to pull the front bumper off, but this front bumper was damaged, so I already pulled it off. So yeah, it's already off. So we're just rolling with it. The reason why everything so stiff is this car's been sitting for a couple months. So that's also why you can maybe see all the cobwebs. But there shouldn't be anything alive in here, but if there is, I'll show you. Got it. It's over there now. Someone else's problem. The hose clamp's falling apart. Another thing you guys are going to want to do is jack your car up. This one I've got on blocks, so I've got plenty of room underneath it. It does have an aftermarket aluminum radiator in it because my wife, then girlfriend at the time, decided to hit a cat with it. So So I ended up destroying the radiator. Had to pull it out anyway. So it was like, you know, perfect opportunity to put a better radiator in. So. The radiator fans will come with the radiator. They come out with the radiator. 13s. Alright, on this radiator, you got two 13s. One over here. One over here. You also have to pull your lower radiator hose, which I'll do that part off camera. One. Two. Oh, guess my bracket's broken on this side. Alright, once you undo your lower radiator hose and your two bolts here, the radiator should be free. Just grab onto it and lift up. Set it off to the side. Alright, now that you got your radiator set out of the way, next thing you're going to do, you're going to come in here and you're going to loosen out your tensioner to get this belt off, and you loosen your tensioner over here. Kind of hard to see, but it's right here. There's your bolt for your tensioner, and we can get your alternator belt off. Once you get those belts off, then you can kind of you should be able to lay your power steering pump kind of off to the side. You're going to pull this pulley off. It should be 3 10s. And then the next thing you want to do is drop your sway bar. It's 4 bolts. 1, 2, and then 2 over here. And then you should just be able to push it down. That way you have enough room to get in here to get your crank bolt off. So that's going to be the next step. It's not 13. All right. 12. If I'm not mistaken. 12. And that's 12. Over here. Just gotta loosen it. Don't have to go tight or anything like that. And don't have to go all the way out. Just loosen that. And come over here and do the same thing to this side. That's actually a 10. You have your bolt here on the top of your alternator. Alright, that's loose. Go over here with your 12. You're gonna loosen it. And get your tool stuck too. That's very important. Don't forget your socket. And then next thing you need to do is find out where your bottom bolt is. Which on this one is which on the alternator is on the other side, on the bottom. So that's perfect. And this one, I believe it's in here. Where's it? I can't see it. There it is. It's right here. So you may need to rotate the engine over. That way you can get a socket on it. Might be able to get it. I believe it's a 14. It's a 14. There we go. Got it. And then should just be able to Nope, I lied. That's something else. It's this bolt that's right there. So I need to rotate the engine over. Alright, now I should just be able to. Maybe not. What the heck? There we go. Apparently, all you gotta do is loosen everything. Push it down, pull the belt off. Now remember which side this belt goes on. I like to throw them off to the side. You're gonna do the same thing to the alternator, and then you're gonna pull. Actually, while your alternator is still hooked up, loosen your 3 bolts on your pulley down there. That way you're not fighting, trying to hold it and break them free at the same time. Which again, I just had these off not too long ago, but again, better safe than sorry. So those are all loose now. I'm gonna need my 14 again to loosen this part. All you gotta do is loosen it. Now I'm gonna go underneath, loosen the bottom of the alternator. All right. Once you loosen this bolt here, you loosen this bolt down here. They're both 14s. Your alternator should move freely. You move it towards the block. That way you can pull your belt off. You can pull the belt off there, drop it down, under and out. This belt's still okay. I'm gonna throw it over there. Next thing, I'm gonna pull my pulley here off. My water pump. There we go. That's what this is. Now while you're doing your oil pump, it would also be a good time to do a water pump. This water pump is newer, so I'm not going to be doing that, and it's not leaking. Also, while you're under there doing the alternator, might as well take a 12 under there with you and remove your 4 bolts. Your 2 down here, your 2 over there. That way you can just take your slate bar and push it down. That way it's down and out of the way for when you pull your crank pulley off. But the next step is to pull your, it's kind of hard to mix these up. You're going to pull your 4 spark plug wires. They should be labeled. At least the original ones are. You're going to loosen this screw up here and remove your PCV valve. You should have 2 bolts. This valve cover only has the one. This engine was rebuilt about 40,000 miles ago, so that's why the valve cover is blue. The rest of the engine is supposed to be blue, but oil, and yeah. So you're gonna pull your valve cover bolts out. They are 10 mil. Handful of them. Set them off to the side. Pull the hose for your PCV valve, which is a consumable, so you should be replacing them every 5 oil changes or so, because they do get clogged. Just kidding, that one's not coming out. So just move that off to the side. Once you get all that off to the side, then you pull up and go set that off to the side somewhere. Alright, once you pull your valve cover off, you're going to come down here. In particular, you can see your timing mark, the little notch in your lower timing gear. There should be an arrow right here. Mine's broken off, but you can kind of still see it. You can see how it's mostly lined up. That's good enough for right now, at least. But when we go back together with it, we're gonna need to watch out for that. Your intake and exhaust cams need to have I corresponding with this mark here, your E corresponding with this mark here. As you can tell by here, and this was dirty, but there's an I right here. So your little timing marks need to line up here and here. Once you do that, then your engine is on TDC, on top dead center, number 1. And the next thing you're going to want to do is what I do is you have a couple hexagon shaped pieces on your cams. A couple hexagon shaped pieces on your cams. What I like to do is I like to get 2 crescent wrenches. Not crescent wrenches. Yeah, crescent wrenches. And you're going to fold them. You're going to put them one facing this direction, the other facing that direction. That way they're crisscrossing. And you just vice grip them together. That way your cams cannot move. And you're going to want your front cylinder, both your lobes for your exhaust valves and your intake valves, you want them facing away from each other. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Alright, see, this is what I was talking about. Kind of put 2 crescent wrenches on there and vice grip it down. Those cams shouldn't move. Next step after you do that, you're going to want to get your crank pulley off. If you have an automatic, best bet's a impact. If you have a manual transmission, have someone put it in gear, put the parking brake on. You may get lucky pulling it off, or car might try to roll on you. So get someone else to step on the brake, help you break the bolt free. So you're gonna pull your bolt out. And then you're gonna pull your bolts out. You got 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. When you pull those out, your pulley should come right off. There you got the bolt out. No, okay, that's not gonna come off by itself. All right. Another thing I just noticed is your oil pump is here. So this bolt's gonna have to come out, like all the way out. You may have to remove the intake support. Also, if you have AC on in your car, that your AC bracket's gonna have to come off because you use this bolt right here, or is blocking your oil pump from coming this direction, which you need because it's slotted onto the crank. So yeah, your crank position sensor, that's easy enough. That's just a bolt right there, comes off, and yeah. So let me go ahead and pull my pulley out off. This one again is going to be 10 mil bolts. Get your 4 bolts, set them onto the side. You got a wheel, your pulley, tone wheel, and adapter should come right off. Set those off to the side as well. Alright, next step is you're going to be taking off your timing belt. You're going to undo your spring right here. Undo your spring with your isolator, set that off to the side. You're going to grab your 14. Just go on the socket. Loosen your tensioner. And since I don't want to disconnect anything else, and just kind of drape it like that. It's out of your way. Next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to try and get your key out. I've never had good luck getting the key out, but I'm going to do that off camera. So that way, if I do something wrong or whatever, then I'm not going to be cussing on camera. So I'm going to go ahead and take the key out. I'm going to try and see if I can get that gear to slide off. If not, I'm going to have to torch it off, but I do have another one. So I'm not too worried about that particular gear. Alright. Once you get the crank pulley off, or the crank gear off, I had to torch that one off because I couldn't get it off. But there's ways to get it off, but I'm impatient. You're going to end up having to take this bolt out, which will hit the bracket. So you take the bracket off. I've already pulled the two from the top off, and it literally just drops down and out. You have two at the very top. Set that off to the side. Oh, dog's back. And that's also where your oil filter is. So if you need to do an oil filter, oil change, it's right there. So you're gonna undo that bolt right here for the alternator. And you're gonna swing the alternator out because this right here is your oil pump, and your alternator's in the way. So yeah. Then after that, you've got to pull the AC compressor. Apparently mine just started this one just started leaking, so that's what you notice all the green from. So I have to put a new AC compressor on this thing. So yeah, that's very fun. Oh, there's a better shot of it. So yeah, there's 4 bolts that hold that on. You have your 2 down here, you have two up top, and then there's gonna be a couple bolts for the bracket. Alright, once you got your AC compressor off, then you got 4 more bolts to take off. They're all 14s. There's one. Two. Three. And 4 is... Hey, there's 4. And that comes off. Put it to the side. Alright. Once you got that bracket off, you're going to have 5 bolts to remove. Here, here, here. There are 12s. This one and this one. These two. Maybe different sizes. Mine were 13s. But were stripped out, so I had to hammer a 12 on. This one gets bolted through with the AC compressor bracket. That one doesn't go anywhere. This one gets held on with the alternator. So the next step is to pull all your bolts for your oil pan. And so I'm going to do that now, and if there's any tricks, then I'm going to let you guys know. Alright. Once you got your oil pan separated, it's fairly easy to get all the bolts out in chassis. So you got a whole bunch of 10s. You got 4 in your oil pump alone. Got a whole bunch of 10s. You got 4 17mm bolts that bolt the transmission to the back of the oil pan. You got to take those out too. And then you're going to want to support your engine with something and lift it up enough to where you can push your pan down and get to these bolts that are holding your pickup tube to your oil pump. I need to keep going with mine, so I'll be back when I get it up high enough to show you guys. Alright, once you guys get the pan down far enough, there's 2 bolts that hold the pickup tube into the oil pump. It's 10mm. You're going to unscrew them. You have 1, 2. You're going to unscrew them. It's going to come down. It is attached to the windage tray, so it may be kind of difficult until you get it all out. Once you do that, after you've taken out your 5 bolts, or 5, once you've taken out those 5 bolts, you can just grab the oil pump, wiggle, and it'll come right off. So once you do that, then you just kind of take it. You're going to punch out that right there. You're going to punch that out, and you're going to swap it onto your new one. And so once you do that, then you can go ahead and put RTV all right here. You're going to need an O-ring that sits in here for your oil pressure control valve. I believe that's what it's called. But you're going to need an O-ring. Unfortunately, the pump I bought did not come with that, but you will need an O-ring. And the one that's on that pump right there is hard as a rock, so I can't reuse it. But once you get an O-ring in there, you're going to take your oil pump and your RTV. You're going to take your oil pump and you're going to line up these pieces on your pump with the flats on either side of the crank. And then you're going to just slide it on. Make sure you watch your seal, because it does have a tendency to roll the lip of the seal, and you will start leaking once you start it. And then it just pops right on. Put your bolts in, and then after that, you're gonna RTV your oil pan back on. And so you're gonna need the oil. You're gonna need to put RTV on the bottom, so on the pan itself, on top of the windage tray, which is this piece right here, the windage tray, and put it up. Of course, don't forget a gasket. You need the gasket here too. So you're gonna bolt this up to your oil pump. You're gonna start putting RTV around. Don't forget your rubber piece that sits right here. That takes up the space that's under the oil pump. And you're gonna put your pan back up. Go ahead and pull your alternator off. You go ahead and put your bolt back in it. Just take this bolt off here. Your alternator should come off. It has one plug and one connector. Take it off. You can prop it up on top of the oil filter. That way it's up out of your way. Pull your motor mounts off of both sides. If your car is a manual like this one, you can go ahead and pull your slave cylinder, which is that part right there. It's kind of hard to see. There, kind of see it. Then it can slide out of the way, and you'll be able to drop your pan all the way down. You can drop your pan all the way down. You can have a couple inches of room in here to work all the way around. So once you get your pump off, then you go ahead and clean your surface here. You clean your surface over here and on the bottom of your engine block, because this pan is held in with RTV. You want to make sure you clean up the snout of the crank. Make sure you have no rust, nothing like that. If you need to, you can put a speedy sleeve on, like this one has. Clean up your surface where your gear sits, because that's very important. Your oil pump. The one I ordered did not come with a gasket or an O-ring. This is just a generic O-ring. I have an O-ring kit that fits. It's gonna be a little loose, but my old one is rock hard, so I can't use it. They do sell a gasket for this. I can't get one, at least not anytime soon. So I'm just gonna use RTV. It's gonna be fine. Same thing with an AC compressor. I can't get an AC compressor for some reason. They're all on national back order. But I was able to get one. So this thing's gonna have a new AC compressor and a whole bunch of other new parts. So once you get everything cleaned up, like I have, then I'm gonna go ahead and put some RTV everywhere. Then I'm gonna lube up my oil seal. And then I'm gonna match up these two nubs on the oil pump itself. This is your oil feed. So this right here is your oil galley. It's where your main oil goes in. So you want to make sure this stays clean, because it's going to go right to your oil filter. So it should catch everything, but it's just best to keep it clean. So you also want to oil your seal. That way when you first start it, it's not sitting there starting on a dry crank and wearing out the brand new front main seal you just put in. Especially after you get it all back together and it starts puking oil. That's a very bad feeling. Ask me how I know. So next step is I'm going to put my oil pump back on, and then I'm going to put my oil pickup tube on, and then I'm going to put the pan on. So I'm going to do all that just because I need to RTV it, and it's going to take me a little bit. So, alright, I will say, putting the pickup tube on is the hardest part of the job. This is the only reason why you shouldn't be pulling the engine if you want to. It is possible to do it in frame. You got to make sure the windage tray is separated from the pan in order to do so, in order to put the pickup tube back on. That is definitely the hardest part. After you get this on, then you can go ahead and clean up your pan surface and your windage tray and your block surface, and go ahead and put RTV on. You do need to have a gasket here. It should come with your oil pan kit. Literally just sits in a little groove here, or you can RTV it right about there. But I'm gonna put the pan on and I'll come back. Alright, now that the oil pan's on, then you can put your motor mounts back on. And once you put your motor mounts back on, then you can lower your engine back down. And remove your engine support. Alright, now that your engine's sitting back down on the motor mounts, you're going to go ahead and throw the 2 nuts on the bottom of each mount on. Then you go ahead and put your alternator back on, your AC compressor, and your power steering pump, which is right there. You can go ahead and put that back on. And after that, then you can start putting your timing and everything like that back on. Let me go ahead and put everything else on, and I'll be right back. Alright, once you get your alternator on, don't tighten it down. You're going to put your power steering pump and your AC compressor on. Don't tighten your alternator or your power steering pump, because you have your belts to put on in a little bit. Before you put your brace on, before you put your brace on for your intake, now would be a good time to do an oil change or to pull your oil filter off. But now that I'm here, my next step is to put the lower pulley on. I'm going with a new one. This is the part number for the 1.8. I'm not sure if the 1.6 is any different, but this is for the 1.8, at least the 96 model. And it's right here. It's going to go on with the keyway notch, straight up and down. Might need to tap it on a little bit, but once you put it on as far as it'll go, then you're going to put your lower crank pulley, you're going to put your keyway in. You're going to put your key in. That way it'll, well, I can't do this one-handed, but you're going to put your keyway in. And once I put my keyway in, I'll be right back. Alright, once you put your lower pulley on, and then once you put your pin in, your keyway in, then you're going to put your lower pulley on. It's super simple. It just lines up with the keyway. That's on there. And you grab your crank bolt and you thread it in. There is a torque spec for this, but I'm going to have to go look it up because I don't know it off the top of my head. But I do know is if this is not torqued on right, it will cause it will cause damage if your pulley backs out. It can break the snout of the crank off. So you need to make sure this bolt does get torqued down. But once you do that, then what you can do is go ahead and obviously I just put the belt here, just to put the belt there. Turn it over to your timing mark. You see your timing mark, this timing mark here. This little arrow lines up with the notch. You should be on TDC number 1 or 4, but you're going off TDC number 1. Both of your intake valves are going to be pointed away, or both your, not your intake valves, your valves, your camshaft lobes. There we go. Your camshaft lobes on cylinder 1 are going to be pointed away. Remember the timing marks on your gears. Your exhaust is going to line up with the E. your eye is going to line up with your eye down here. Actually, this one's a little bit off. Let me fix those real quick, because I think that one's a little bit off too, but that one's definitely off. So let me go ahead and get this engine timed up. So you're going to go off of that timing mark there. You're going to loop your belt on your tensioner there, around up here, around there, and on the inside of your idler. Get it out of your hose clamp. You're going to get it around your idler there, straight down to your pulley down there. So let me get this thing in time, and I'll be back. Alright, I've got her timed now. You can see that line's matched up, as well as my exhaust mark. You can see the notch right there is lined up with the notch there with the E, and the I for the intake is matched up with here. The notch is right there, and the belt is torqued, is tight. So yeah, next step is going to be put my valve cover back on. Once I put the valve cover back on, then I'm going to come down here and put my belts on. All right, now that I've got the belts on down there, you use these bolts here to tighten them. You want to barely be able to rotate them over. This one I can't get any tighter. It's a little worn out, but it is what it is. So you can use this bolt here to tighten this belt, and there's another bolt right there where my finger is that you can use to tighten the alternator side. Now that I got those done, I've got the valve cover torqued down. I'm going to go ahead and lay my spark plugs back out, or spark plug wires back out, and install them. They literally just pop in. Can't forget cylinder 4. Put the PCV valve in. Need to tighten that back up. Oh, there we go. Hey, my headlight's dying. Oh no. All right. Again, while the valve cover's off, add oil. Big open space. Just be careful not to get any oil in your spark plug holes. So engine's full of oil. I'm going to go ahead and change the filter. Then I'm going to install the intake brace. We'll do that off camera. Then after you get here, next thing to do is put the radiator in. Alright, once you get everything installed, get everything back together, go over all your fluids once again, make sure everything is topped off, coolant's topped off, oil's full. Hook up your battery, and might need a jump pack on it, but start it. That's all I'm going to do now. Started up just fine. She's got oil pressure. It has been sitting for a while, so it's going to run a little rough. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but it is shaking a little bit. Yeah, this car's been sitting roughly 6 months, so Probably needs some fresh gas in it. But so far, no leaks. I'll keep you updated if there's any leaks. Alright guys, here's the finished product. It's all nice and clean, bumpers on. Got the new top on it. Need to do a little bit of work on the interior. It's nice and clean. So yeah. It's not leaking. Running good. So if you like what you see, please go over and like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys.